Welcome into Cronkite Sports Live. It's a new year, it's a new semester, and new faces in front of your computer screen. I'm Mauricio Casillas. He's Jake Garcia. Now, Jake, I gotta ask, new semester, new year, everything going on. What's your New Year's resolution?
Well, I realized my suit game was a bit weak last semester. I'd been alternating between some ugly combinations and was even tempted to break out some sweater vests from the days of old at times. I befriended the sales clerk at Joseph A. Bank, purchased myself some new attire. Hey, new year, new me, right?
Oh my gosh, those old suits, that sweater vest was terrible. But what's not terrible is the show we got lined up for you guys.
There's so much that's different, never before seen, and so many new aspects that we're going to present on CSL this year. But we start the show with arguably the exact opposite, an ASU women's basketball team that has been as steady and as predictable as the passage of time. Fresh off the SD card, let's get to some highlights. ASU Oregon this morning from Wells Fargo Arena. Jillian Elaine from Oregon, she averages 15 a game to the lane right there for two early on. Alicia Davis, stop, pop, tater tot, ties the score up. Here's Lexi Brandow now for Oregon. Spin move, finger roll, that was pretty. Now Dre Toller, the exact same move, wrong foot, wrong hand, still works. Oregon hanging on steady, up by 2 at the half. Here's Kelsey Moose though, down low, 2 of her own. 3 great passes here. Moose is pumped. Alicia Davis back to Moose, down low. 2 more for Moose. And Moose one more time. Another layup. Here's Jillian Aileen again, though. She's going to cut the lead to 6, but that's as close as Oregon would be in the final score. You see Bruner here jumping the passing lane. ASU goes up by 8. And then Katie Hempen, cool and collected from beyond the arc. Baseline 3, that's good. Hempen one more time. Splappa. ASU goes on to win. Best start in school history now. Hempen was the leading scorer. ASU has won 14 games in a row. School record is 15. They're now 11-0 at home. I welcome now Elaine Wilson to the desk. Elaine was at the game today. And Elaine, ASU basketball always finds a way to pull out those tight games. But today they started a little bit cold. Does this worry you, given the fact that they were going up against a subpar opponent?
Well, I mean, I think when ASU doesn't dominate, we have a tendency to say that the sky is falling, but the sky is not falling. They just had a dominating win over Stanford this past week. That was great for their school history, and they're facing Oregon State this weekend. I don't think that this is going to be much of a damper on the rest of their season.
So the Sun Devils now continue their winning streak. What do you think has been the key for this team's success when at the start of the season, not a lot of the pundits thought that this team would be so successful?
Right. Well, I think the number one key is treating every half like the score is 0-0. Every half is a new game for this team. It creates big scoring leads, and it also helps the team in keeping that lead for the rest of the game. I also think that keeping the foot on the gas pedal for this team is really important. Again, creating those big leads so that they get tired later in the game. It's not such of a worry anymore. It's not like they're going to lose this huge lead that they've built up.
Exactly. Perhaps today against Oregon was a bit of a get your head straight, prepare for what's coming next, because ASU now turns around on Sunday and faces number 9 Oregon State, a team that ranks in the top 10 in field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and assists. So they're certainly going to have their hands full. What are your initial impressions of the Beavers, and what challenges do you see them posing to ASU?
Well, if you look at these stats that we have here, you can see that Oregon State is a very offensive-minded team. They're all about getting high-scoring games going, so it's going to be really important for the ASU defense to step up today. And Promise Amukamara, I think, is going to be the really big key for that. She's likely going to be defending Jamie Weisner, who had back-to-back 25-point games this past week. So she's really important. Sophie Bruner's also really important for this team. I sat down with her this week and had a little bit of an interview. Here's what she had to say about what the team is this year.
I just think this team's like really special because we just play for each other. No one cares who scores. No one cares really about the stats. We just want to win. So we're just really hungry, driven team, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So it's just been a lot of fun.
ASU will certainly have its hands full this Sunday when they take on Oregon State, but for now, the team has won 14 games in a row. Thanks for joining us, Elaine. Mal, back to you.
The Arizona State hockey team is now in the final stretch of the regular season, with hopes of grasping the top seed in the ACHA tournament. Last night, the Sun Devils hosted the Stony Brook Seawolves. No, that's not the name of a secret old British society. Instead, it's the name of an actual hockey team. Let's take a look at the highlights. We pick things up early in the first period. 12 minutes ago, it's forward Fezcon laying it back to Ryan Belanger, who lights the lamp to give ASU the 1-0 lead. Then opening in the second period, the puck finds Fezcon once again, and Fezcon sends it home to give the Sun Devils a 2-0 lead. Then later on in the second period, Stony Brook thinks it's got the goal, but let's take a closer look. You see Sun Devil netminder Robert Levin there. He's just chilling. He knows it doesn't count. The net's locked loose. No goal for Stony Brook there. The Sun Devils hold on to the 2-0 lead. Then late in the third quarter, it's Mac Barden getting absolutely decked there, but his Sun Devil teammates come to his defense, and ultimately the Sun Devils end up tacking on a late goal and finish off Stony Brook 3-0. Now with more on last night's win, let's send it to Allison Cummings and Dominic Catronio.
Thanks, guys. We are here at the scene, Oceanside Ice Arena. Arizona State just defeated number 7, Stony Brook, by a score of 3-0. But first thing first, Dom, what were your biggest takeaways from the game?
Well, Robert Levin had his 7th shutout of the season. He looked like vintage Robert Levin, which is hard to say considering he's only a sophomore. But this is the best complete team win here on this ice for ASU, considering the defense was there, the offense was there when they had the chance, and the special teams, the penalty kill was fabulous tonight for ASU.
And head coach Garofalo for Stony Brook heavily scouted Arizona State coming into this game. He mentioned the standout line he wanted to put his best line against to kind of even that out. The starting line for Arizona State of Sean Murphy, Eric Rivard, and Liam Norris has really been explosive so far. My biggest takeaway was how well his line matched that line. We saw the second line really stand out today. But transitioning now, next week against U of A, 6 guys for Arizona State will be going to Spain to play in the Winter World University Games. Crucial guys, you have Connor Schmidt going, Ryan Belanger, and Ed McGovern, to name a few. But also you have Tommy Cooney with a lower body injury and Ryan Ostertag still out. What is the impact of this?
Well, it's going to be huge because a lot of your offense, even the defensive players that are gone, they really cause a lot of the schemes and a lot of things moving forward for ASU. We'll throw up the graphic now of the guys and their numbers that you will be missing against U of A on the weekend. It's going to be tough because you look at U of A, a team that really gave ASU a run for their money the last time they came here to Oceanside. You look at a guy like Ed McGovern leading all defensemen with 9 goals, and then you got Sean Murphy, of course. He's got 16 goals, tied for the team lead. So you're losing a lot of offensive talent, yes, but this team's best quality is depth. And the fact that there's somebody ready to step in and fill the void on any given week is what makes ASU so dangerous and still number 1 in the nation.
And you brought up Arizona State's depth, but are you slightly concerned the chemistry is going to get a little mixed up, especially with that first line taking Sean Murphy out of it?
It's understandable to be concerned, but you have to remember, these guys, the guys that will be filling in were on this national championship last year too. These are the guys that are filling in. You'll just have guys that maybe are in a little higher lines than they're usually in. Like tonight, we saw Mac Barden filling in for Cooney, as you mentioned, in the third line in his center role. That was almost a guarantee every night. So Barden may find himself in even in the second line. We'll see more of Jared Morris, see some more of Connor Maley maybe on the third line as well. We'll get to see the return of Jared Levos, maybe Troy Hoban as well. Guys that really haven't seen a lot of time, but when they do get on the ice, they make it count and are really effective players.
And you can see Brett Blumgren even come back in and throw the body against U of A, but sort of maybe debatable and unpopular opinion, but when people scout Arizona State, they're scouting the Sean Murphys, the Ryan Belongers. They're not necessarily scouting Mac Barden and Jared Morris, so that could really prove to be an advantage, but I guess we'll see. The U of A Wildcats are going to come here next weekend, but that'll do it for us. For Dominic Catronio, I'm Allison Cummings. Back to you guys.
Thanks, guys. Well, as we continue this new year, new us, new everything show, we should go back to something that we referenced at the start of the program, new anchor combos. Again, I'm Jake Garcia, he's Mauricio Casillas, and not to spoil the impending surprise of next week, but the other anchor pair for CSL will be Brett Decker and Jason Chesler.
Spoilers, man.
And yes, that means the sorrowful day has come, and Jason Chesler will no longer dazzle us with his quick wit on Tweets of the Week. Not to worry, though. To borrow a phrase from Alice in Wonderland, let's call this the dodo bird verdict. Jason gets a full show to make your sides hurt from laughing so hard, and a new face is ushered in to handle social media duties. Everyone has won. All have gotten their prizes. Gavin, take it away.
Much like Alice in Wonderland, social media is something of a fantasy world. It's a place where Santa Claus is real. Athletes will give you the time of day, as long as you write about them, and talk with you on social media. Well, not me, but other people. Just like Grantland editor-in-chief Bill Simmons likes to say, social media might just be in the Tyson zone. Anything that can happen will happen, and nothing, and I mean nothing, should surprise you. Jason Chesler used to pick it. Sun Devil athletes and fans still say it. It's time for your Cronkite Sports Live Tweets of the Week. Let's roll out with Ryan Ficker. Oh, no. Surprise, surprise. Amber Freeman starting up.
Wow.
And she's retweeting Lauren Chamberlain. Guys, my friends give me a lot of flack for being a fan of the University of Oklahoma. Even though I go to school here, and this will only prove it, she's retweeting Lauren Chamberlain, University of Oklahoma All-American softball player. Preseason rankings don't mean a thing. Guys, what's your take on that?
I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. I think Oklahoma, no, get out of here. You're a Sun Devil. You're a Sun Devil. ASU, baby. Sparky all the way. Come on.
All right, Jake, why don't you assess the actual content of the tweet?
Okay, my stance on this is that I don't know what Amber Freeman's complaining about. We'll talk about this later, but ASU softball got a ranking of 16. They did lose 2 star-studded pitchers. I think they should be pretty happy with their preseason ranking.
Guys, I think Lauren Chamberlain has a little inside information. She's dating an Oklahoma football player, so she knows all about disappointing preseason expectations. Now, guys, let's roll off to the next tweet. Now we have Ryan Ficker. According to his profile, frat boy and future accountant, you should still come to ASU. Be in the curtain of distraction. Nicole Kidman is taken, but ASU has cuter girls. At Jimmy Fallon, hashtag ASU Tonight, hashtag Fallon to Fargo. Guys, let me give you a little context. Hashtag ASU Tonight was trending all week long. Everyone's trying to get Jimmy Fallon inside the curtain of distraction, which is suddenly a worldwide phenomenon. Who knew? What do you guys make of that?
Gavin, you're just taking all our points that we have for later in the show, but the curtain of distraction has been incredible for Sun Devil basketball, and Jimmy Fallon being there would only escalate that. I actually got invited to an event on Facebook. I had no idea Jimmy Fallon was actually coming to ASU.
You and every other person that goes to ASU.
I know, but I felt special because it was so late, so I think someone was thinking about me or something.
All I got to say is there's 2 curtains, so you got to set up Jimmy Fallon, curtain on the left, and then the one on the right, he's got to have a guest. Who that guest is, I have no idea. I'm thinking Herb Sendek, though.
Guys, I know I only had 140 characters, but I think Ryan Ficker could have made an even stronger case. Most ASU students have not been married to Tom Cruise. That's important. Let's move on to our final tweet. And this one, courtesy of Ryan Belanger. He's a Packers fan. Haven't been this excited since Christmas of 1999 when I got my first Easton Z bubble stick. I thought it was a stick of bubble gum. Turns out it's a hockey stick from Santa. Go Pack Go. Hashtag GBP. And as we all know, Green Bay blew that game to the Seattle Seahawks in historic fashion, and Ryan Belanger wasn't so happy after the fact. Let's get up that next one, Joey. And, okay, not on screen, but the next tweet was actually really good. He decided that Santa Claus actually isn't real just based off Green Bay losing a game.
Spoilers
Guys, was that
again.
unfair?
I got to say, Santa Claus does not decide the outcome of football games whatsoever. Santa Claus, he's too busy. He's more of a soccer fan because, you know, he's a global figure, and, you know, the whole world loves soccer more than they love American football. Santa cares about soccer.
You reference soccer, I'm going to reference baseball in a hockey tweet. Who knew that Easton made hockey sticks? When I first saw Easton, I was like, yeah, the new Stealth. I'd be stoked if I got that too. Props to you, though.
They make the Easton Z bubble stick.
Oh, okay.
Guys, I think you were ignoring the thesis of this tweet. I've been in tears the last week after finding out that Santa Claus is, in fact, not real. My parents, you guys have a lot of explaining to do. That's it for Cronkite Sports Live Tweets of the Week. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Gavin. You certainly have some big shoes to fill as our social media correspondent this semester, but I see you already fill out those size 12s of yours really nicely. To more guys with big feet, don't look now, but the ASU men's basketball team has won 2 conference games in a row for the first time this season, behind some stifling first-half defense in which the Sun Devils held Cal to 13 points. Yes, 13 points. ASU came away with a 79-44 demolition of the Golden Bears. At the 14:41 mark of this game, Cal guard Tyrone Wallace knotted the score at 10 with 2 free throws. The Golden Bears then proceed to miss their next 12 shots, their next 2 free throws, and commit 6 turnovers. In the blink of an eye, 13 minutes had elapsed, and ASU was in cruise control with a comfortable 32-12 lead. The Sun Devils are now at the halfway point in reaching the elusive 4-game conference winning streak, something they haven't done since the 2010 season. To the guys who know it best, Mauricio Casillas is joined by Jake Gaden and Zach Pokleb.
Thanks, Jake. Now, guys, Jake just rattled off a lot of interesting stats about last night's win, something that I was extremely impressed with. Yep. But for you guys, my question to you is, what does this mean? What does this win mean in the greater scheme of things? The fact that now the Sun Devils have won 2 conference games in a row, and they win that game in such an exciting fashion.
Well, like you said, they're 10-9 in the season, 2-4 in Pac-12 play, and they just won the past 2 games. Let's break down the 2 wins, okay? Win against Colorado at home at Wells Fargo Arena. That was a defiant win for the Sun Devils. So that's something that they absolutely needed. And then that absolute shellacking of Cal last night by 35 points. That was an impressive win for the Sun Devils. And they only gave up 13 points in the first half. That is like the biggest thing that you really can take away from that game right there is the defense. That's the one consistent thing they've had all season long, only limiting 15 turnovers a game for the opponent, 24 defensive rebounds. It's all about the defense for the Devils.
And the thing is with this ASU team, they haven't had a true identity on offense. Sometimes they've relied on their outside shooting. Other times they tried to drive to the basket and get some fouls. But because the rotation has been in such flux with Jerry Blakes and Roosevelt Scott in the lineup at times, Trey Holder and Cody Justed at other times, I think the defensive tenacity really has to be where ASU finds their identity. Getting it up, high pressure, forcing turnovers, and getting out on the break. If they can get their defenders switching picks because they're all versatile and can guard multiple positions, I think they'll be just fine.
Now, you guys sort of mentioned it earlier, that rotation. No one knows exactly who's going to be starting when, but for you guys specifically, who do you think needs to step up in order for the Sun Devils to continue this conference streak going forward?
I think ASU needs to look to their seniors, John Gilling, Bo Barnes, and Shaquille McKissick. When they're producing more on offense, ASU has more success and they're more relaxed on the offensive end of the floor. I mean, Bo Barnes and John Gilling are such marksmen. They really spread the floor for ASU, but the key really is Shaquille McKissick. In wins, he's just more aggressive, drives to the basket, not settling for jump shots. Even though his shot is improved, he's at his best when he's driving the lanes, taking guys on, and he's created such highlight plays for his team. You saw against Colorado. Really, Torrey Miller, or the dunk over Torrey Miller was just amazing. Brought a lot of energy to the floor. So when he's attacking, when he's tenacious on the offensive end, ASU plays much better.
Like you said, Shaquille McKissick, key main guy, the big guy that really needs to step up. Another guy I think that needs to step up is a freshman, not the senior, Trey Holder, who's been that point guard position for the majority of the year. As you can see from the stats right there, he's just has 4 assists, averages 4 assists a game in wins to 2 assists per game in losses. That's a major margin right there. Also, as a team, 16 assists in wins and Pac-12 plays to 10 assists in losses. Right there says it all. Distribution of the basketball. You can distribute the basketball well and get easy shots. You're going to win the game, easy as that.
And in that game against Cal, Trey Holder looked the most comfortable he's been all season, really coming off the ball screens, keeping guys on his back, really seeing the whole floor, not rushing into, young turnovers that we've seen. I mean, the collegiate point guard position, making that jump from high school, such a steep learning curve. It's hard for guys to get used to the speed of the game. And so I think if Trey Holder can get that comfort level, what he showed against Cal, ASU, I mean, it'll improve.
Major game against Stanford on Saturday. I think that's a big timetable or test of time, seeing how the Sun Devils will do for the rest of the season. Because if they win that game against Stanford and then they go home and play Oregon State at Wells Fargo Arena, that changes the whole season for the Sun Devils right there.
And not to forget, Cal and Colorado were both banged up, missing their stars, so this is an important game.
Well, guys, you mentioned it right there. The Stanford game will be at 10 p.m. If you guys stay awake, be sure to stick with CronkiteSports.com's coverage of that game. And you guys also mentioned it earlier, Bo Barnes and Jonathan Gilling are going to have to be huge in that game in order for the Sun Devils to come out with the win in Palo Alto. But luckily, our very own Cameron Neely has more on how those two seniors help dictate the offense.
Had its definite moments of triumph as well as frustrating defeat this season. And both of those outcomes, the common variable has been the team's shooting, particularly the shooting of Bo Barnes and John Gilling.
As a team that doesn't have an abundance of offensive options, the contributions from Bo Barnes and John Gilling are crucial.
A lot of guys from the other teams, they sit on our tail a lot, so if we could just sit in the corner and spread out the floor, then I think it's easier for our guards.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely tough because you don't want guards to penetrate and get in the lane, but if you don't guard us, I mean, we're knocking a lot of them down.
In ASU's last 2 Pac-12 wins, the pair has shot 13 for 22 from the field. That's compared to the 10 for 30 shooting slump Barnes and Gilling went through during the team's 4-game losing streak to open conference play. And the two do, of course, have some fun while they're knocking down shots on the court as well.
I remember one last game, though, before I even shot it, he said it was going in, so that was kind of funny.
We just look at each other and say, oh, this is too easy. It's like a layup,
We kind of just like to joke around and keep it light, and it just helps us stay calm and stuff.
During the previous home series against Utah and Colorado, John and Bo's effect on the game was rather clear. Against Utah, where the team was blown out, the two combined for 1 for 7 shooting. Against Colorado in their narrow win, the two went 6 for 10 from shooting, all of which were threes, including a 3-minute stretch down the stretch where the two knocked down all 4 of the team's shots and all were threes. For Cronkite Sports Live, I'm Cameron Neely.
On Monday, D1Baseball.com released its first set of rankings for the 2015 season, and ASU checked in at 24th in the country. Sun Devil softball followed suit on Tuesday, garnering a ranking of 16th in the first USA Today Top 25 poll. This represents the 140th consecutive week that ASU softball has been ranked. For Sun Devil baseball, last season was a bit more disappointing as it didn't crack the Baseball America Top 25 for the first time in school history. Nevertheless, that didn't prohibit the team from notching its 52nd straight 30-win season, the longest streak ever in Division I baseball. ASU softball opens the season in just under 2 weeks as it hosts Creighton in Game 1 of the Kajikawa Classic, while Sun Devil baseball season commences a week later against number 12 Oklahoma State.
Now, keeping with our theme of new things on the show, we have, yes, you guessed it, a new segment. We know that after CSL is over, you probably are suffering from ASU Sports withdrawal. Luckily, our weekend forecast will keep you up to date on all Sun Devil sporting events happening this weekend. Here to help you schedule those weekend plans is Christina Vicario. Christina, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Mauricio. If you're an ASU Sports fan, you might be looking at some pretty packed days and late nights this weekend. Starting off the weekend is the ASU wrestling team traveling to Boise, Idaho, and taking on the Boise State Broncos. ASU is currently 6-5 and looking to secure another road win over a 2-4 Broncos team who is coming off 2 road losses to both North and South Dakota State earlier this week. That game comes to you tonight at 8 p.m. Arizona time and will be live streamed via broncosports.com. You can watch the ASU water polo team as well today, starting off this season with the UCSB Winter Invite in sunny Santa Barbara, California. This year's team is equipped with 3 of last season's 4 2014 Polo All-Americans and has made waves in the off-season with the recruiting class expected to be one of the best ever for the team. ASU will play a game a day, Friday through Sunday. The times are not yet set, so you'll have to watch out for those ones. On Saturday, the track and field team will take on Texas A&M at College Station in indoor Texas A&M Quadrangular. The swimming and diving teams have a 12 p.m. start at home against Stanford. And if all day with track and swimming isn't enough, you'll be up all night with men's basketball. The Sun Devils have a 10 p.m. tip-off time against Stanford Cardinal in California. The Sun Devils picked up their first Pac-12 win against Colorado earlier this week. But the Cardinal is currently 3rd in the Pac-12 and will be a tough one for a team that has won only a single road game this season. And rounding out the weekend is the wrestling team, also taking on the Cardinal with 12 p.m. Sunday start on the Pac-12 networks. Let's hope men's basketball stays within regulation so we can be up in time to catch that one. The gymnastics team travels to Berkeley, California for a 3 p.m. meet with San Jose State, California, and Denver. And saving the best for last, the highlight game of the week comes to you at 2 p.m. on Sunday as the women's basketball team faces Oregon State Beavers. The Lady Sun Devils currently lead the Pac-12 and ride a 13-game winning streak. The Beavers are number 2 in the Pac-12 and are the only other team currently within stone's throw of taking the lead in the conference. That game will wrap up an exciting weekend lineup and will be broadcasted on the Pac-12 networks. And that's your weekend forecast. Now back to Jake and Mauricio at the desk.
Thanks, Christina. Now we're going to try out a new segment here, Jake, paying homage to the great Walter Cronkite. You know, that's what this show's named after, Cronkite Sports Live, with a segment we like to call The Way It Is. So basically the way it works, Jake, is that I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to tell me why it is the way it is. Then you're going to fire right back at me. Ready?
Got it.
Okay, so less than a month away until ASU baseball kicks off its season. Are you more excited for Ryan Burr's 95-mile-per-hour heater or Tracy Smith's Twitter account, which, by the way, is also fire?
Well, I didn't know something could be more flame than a Ryan Burr fastball, but when I saw the altercation between Tracy Smith and Arizona U of A beat writer Greg Hansen, I have to give the nod to Tracy Smith. Looking forward to it. Now, question for you. ASU women's basketball sits at 13th in the rankings and has a win against number 11 Stanford this week to bolster that. Does this basketball team top ASU football, which is ranked at number 6 at one point this year, as the highest-ranked Sun Devil sports team?
Jake, I think they absolutely do, and the reason for that is because I think Charlie Turner-Thorne is the best head coach here at Arizona State. You know, I think Todd Graham has done a great job with the ASU football team, but she's the best. It would not surprise me at all, Jake, if this ASU women's basketball team were to crack the top 5. Now, switching gears a little bit, of the 3 Sun Devil football players that are participating in this weekend's Senior Bowl, who do you think will stand out the most? You got Marcus Hardison, Demarius Randall, Big Boy Jamil Douglas.
Look, I think Marcus Hardison is the best football player of this group, but whenever you're looking for a guy to stand out in any given situation, Demarius Randall is your guy. I'm not saying it's going to be in a good way or a negative way. I'm just saying he's going to stand out. He could completely whiff on a tackle, but he could also make the most incredible interception you will ever see. Demarius Randall's my guy. Now to you basketball, ASU basketball, Bo Barnes balled out last night for 17 points, a career high. The chances he replicates that and even tops it when they go to Stanford.
Here's the thing, big shot Bo loves playing in big games, Jake, and his previous career high came against U of A at Arizona, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if he did it at Stanford, at Palo Alto, but I think it's just a little bit too much for Stanford right now. I don't think he's got it. Now, switching gears a bit to another sport, softball media day is this Sunday. But before that, there's going to be a home run derby. Now, who you got? You taking Amber Freeman or the field?
Amber Freeman's probably the best pure hitter on this softball team, but when it comes to raw power, whether it be baseball or softball, never pick a catcher. Bethany Kemp, Haley Steele give me a 2-to-1 odds of being right on this question. Now, senior attackman Dan Davis was named the preseason MCLA Player of the Year. Will he finish the season as the MCLA's MVP?
I think he absolutely does, but he's got to do one thing and one thing only, and that's grow out his lax flow. If he doesn't grow it out, there's no way that he ends up being the MVP later on in the season. But switching gears now, to a more complicated question, Jake. ASU's women's swim and dive team has a plus 36 score differential on the season. Now, they hosted top-ranked Cal at 1 this afternoon, Jake. Now, both of us abstained from looking at the score. I was checking my phone, but I was looking at other things. Wasn't checking the score for that. But did ASU do enough to stay in the black? Meaning, after this meet, are they still positive in their point differential?
Incredible questions are going to get incredible answers. So I say ASU does not stay in the black because Cal, the top-ranked swim and dive team, they have Missy Franklin, who's an Olympian. When ASU loses this year, they lose by a lot, an average loss differential of 50. I say they're in the red after today. Now, shifting gears for you now, Wildcats come to town for hockey next week to face ASU. Who you got in that game?
I think it's absolutely going to be Arizona State in this one. The Wildcats don't play well when they come into Tempe. They usually like to spoil things for the Sun Devils, but unfortunately for them, the Sun Devils were going to come out on top. Easy question. Now, Jake, a tougher question for you. The Phoenix Waste Management Open is in 2 weeks. Does John Rahm, the senior on the ASU golf team, manage one day in which he posts a better score than a toothless Tiger Woods? Did you see that picture? It was gross.
I did see that. I don't care if Tiger Woods has to wear an entire set of dentures, if he strains his back or bicep because he lifts too much, or if he has to play on one leg like he did for the entire 2008 U.S. Open. John Rahm, look, he's a prodigy. He's only a junior in college, but Tiger Woods is an ageless, a timeless, and a toothless legend. Speaking of things that are distracting, though, the next curtain of distraction skit should be...
Well, Jake, I think this is easy for me. If you're trying to throw the opposing player off during a free throw, I think you open up those curtains, you have a big projector that's showing this Cronkite Sports Live episode, and I think if that's going on, they're going to see us, they're going to see our new suit. Actually, maybe the sweater vest would have been more distracting for them, but I think that absolutely is the best curtain of distraction you could ask for, and Jake, that's the way it is.
Exactly, that is the way it is, but let's keep the up-tempo process moving here. We got special top plays for you to end the show, not just any top plays. It's the best of the best from what you missed over winter break. Consider it where quality and quantity collide. Let's get to the highlights now. Play number 4, starting things off. We mentioned it earlier, Olympian Missy Franklin. This isn't Michaela Maroney, but it sure looks close. ASU Gymnastics. Natasha Sunby. Woo! Perfect landing on the floor routine. It's a cruel world if a 9.9 only lands you top play number 4.
Number 3, it's Fez Khan. No, it's not the bad guy from Star Trek. It's the good guy from ASU hockey, sending it home for his second goal of the game. Fez feels it. ASU beats Stony Brook 3-0.
Back-to-back hockey plays. Number 2, Michael Cummings. Have yourself a day. Goal number 1, upper shelf, right where you keep the protein. He's only getting started, though. Cummings, slap shot for goal number 2. And now you guessed it, he's smelling the hat trick. CSL's own Dom Catronio, take it away.
Michael Cummings, he's got 2 goals tonight. A wrister, a bracket, it's a hat trick. Mike Cummings. Sun Devil faithful, get your hats ready. Michael Cummings providing an extra threat.
And last but certainly not least, Jake, it's the Sumble. Duke coming back in the last minute of the game. Throwing, looking for the go-ahead touchdown, but instead it's intercepted there by Queeshy Brown. Game-saving interception there for the Sun Devils. The Sun Devils win the Sun Bowl in the Sun City, El Paso, Texas. That's my backyard, Jake, and those were some great top plays. Honestly, it might be the best top play segment we've done yet.
Yeah, absolutely, but consider that we had an entire month away from the confines of our downtown Phoenix studio, so that means we got an entire month of rust to shake off. It's great to be back, and the top plays may not be as masterful as they were today in future shows, but the talent is only going to get better.
Thank God you've got a suit that's better because that sweater vest was terrible. But that about does it for us here at Cronkite Sports Live. For all of our crew, I'm Mauricio Casillas saying so long from our downtown Phoenix studios.